Everybody having fun so far? Amazing people, right? Well, now we're going to talk about what Tom said is his favorite topic, one of mine too. And what's interesting when I started WDI is I never knew that you could spend weeks, months, even years working on a project, careers, and they never get built. I'd say 90% of my career has never gotten built. And so inevitably, a lot of your projects that you've worked on, there's scripts, there's artwork, there's plans, there's architecture. Nothing ever happens about that. So that's what we're here to talk about, is about a dozen attractions that were dreamed up because of the expansion needs of the Disney-MGM studios that, for one reason or not, didn't make it to see the light of day. So the first one we're going to talk about, I think Bob is going to take, is the early beginnings of what became Tower of Terror. And I believe a meeting took place with Mel Brooks. Do you want to talk about that?
Should I use your mic?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, these are really, we should have fun with this, because these are all like, there's a lot of some ideas that should never have seen the light of day. And then there's ideas that are great and you feel sad they never got built. And then sometimes there's ideas that get canceled and then they show up later in another park. So it's a fun topic, but I'll tell you that the beginning of Tower of Terror, and Laine was deeply involved in this, so was Eric. It really started with the idea of the haunted hotel. It did not start with the Twilight Zone. It started with the haunted hotel idea, a mysterious thing out of kind of the seedier side of Sunset Boulevard, Hollywood. And then, and pretty quick it had a drop of some kind. And then in one of these discussions, I remember, Laine, Michael said, well, what about comedy? What if we call Mel Brooks? And we're all kind of like, maybe not what we were thinking about, but I'll tell you, the opportunity to meet Mel Brooks was enough to pursue. It's like, even if you thought it was a dead end, and I know Craig was there too, he's out here somewhere, but even just to meet with Mel Brooks and talk about it was enough to have some fun. And so we had a few meetings, and that's as far as it went. But I remember one of the most interesting things about Mel Brooks, besides the fact that he's funny and charming and all that stuff, is he always talked about himself in the third person. He always said Mel. He never said me. He always would say, and you'll come around the corner and you'll see Mel, or something like that. But it didn't really. It was a dead end in terms of where we thought we were going. I think you'd all agree with the Tower of Terror. So it was fun, but not where we were going.
No, as I remember, there's two ideas. One was a hotel, a big hotel with a boutique.
An actual hotel.
An actual hotel. That was a boutique hotel. And I remember Michael at one time saying, it'll be really funny. We could like short those sheets and we could put cornflakes in the bed and like make it the most horrible experience.
Yeah, and he wanted the elevators to come down through the bar.
Michael was brilliant, but he had a juvenile side, just like I do. And so I scare the bejesus out of people at this hotel. And I remember everybody saying that people that can afford to pay the price point to go to a hotel like that would never want to stay at it. So that kind of killed that idea. But yes.
So I led that little team for that show about that. The idea was that we were going to do a high-end hotel for that level of guests. I came from that meeting to a Mel meeting one day, and I said, the lowest level. What?
I'm sorry, because you went from the highest level to the lowest level.
Yeah. High part, low part.
I said to that because we looked at all his movies just to get an idea. And I said, guys, I'm working on things that would be really expensive. Oh. It'll be a little shorter than me. So I said, what if one end of this hotel we're building is the original old California Tower Hotel, whatever. So we designed it that way. And we said it'll be attached to this thing that we built. So if you're going into the studio tour, it'll be here along the water. 200 rooms, very expensive, so on and so on. And they said, well, what goes on there? And I said, well, it's deserted. Mel said, haunted? I said, haunted, deserted, same things. You go, haunted, deserted, haunted. And he called himself Mel in the third person. I'm Mel. Anyway, so we said, let's just do a brainstorm. We went around the table, one sentence at a time. What goes on? You go in, it's dusty. It's a full old hotel. Card game, stuff around, but nobody's there. Go to the elevator, can't get in. Go down to the basement, to the steam room. Mel says, what's in the steam room? And the whole team said, steam. Let's try it again. You go down to the basement to the steam room, and Mel says, what's in the basement? Steam. Is this too hard? I could start over. And somebody said, you get in the freight elevator, which is like this. So as you go up, you can see every floor. And we're going around, and now the next bit, I don't remember who said that, and I've asked most of the guys who are on the team, nobody remembers. I'd love to take credit for it, but gets to the top, the elevator shakes, gate opens, and the elevator comes out of the shaft and goes down the hall. Well, our butts were on the floor. Mel says, can we do that? I said, I know a guy. And the next day I was at lunch with these engineers, napkins, this and this and this, and that. Boom. And he took by and said, okay, then what? Then what? And I'd always been told, don't talk to engineers, they'll make it slow and boring and safe. And these guys, I got to the wrong engineers because these guys wanted to play. And then he says, how are you going to get them back down to the ground? I said, I didn't know I could get them out of the shaft. That's all the farther we're getting. We're out of the shaft. Now where do we go? And so I grabbed the salt shaker. I says, is this breakable? Who cares? It was in the dining room. And I said, go to the handle. I said, you go to the end of the cliff, do a Roadrunner. One of the guys said, delayed drop. I said, you get to the end of the cliff, and Roadrunner's a bird, he's fine. Coyote, not fine. Waits, and I dropped the salt shaker. And they all said, that's good. That's engineers laughing. That's good. How tall is this hotel? I said, it's expensive. 6 stories, maybe? He said, that's not funny. And he poked me. He said, think theme park, boy. Well, the working title was the Mel Brooks Hollywood Horror Hotel. Mel said, say horror slowly, or it's not a family ride anymore. Hence, I started calling it Hotel Mel, so that we wouldn't get in for the Hollywood Horror Hotel. And the rest, as they say, is geometry.
Thank you, Craig.
So the bottom line is what we were looking at a hotel, and we were looking at a thrill ride because the park really needed something to appeal to teenagers and a different demographic than we had served before. And one thing that Laine and the team we explored, thought about what has Disney not done that's a different kind of physical experience that could be in our park, not just another roller coaster or whatever. So we remembered at Six Flags Magic Mountain in Valencia in California, they had an attraction called Free Fall. So we went and studied that, and we said, this is a sensation that we'd like to do, and we wrote it 100 times, and Chris was with us and analyzed it. But anyway, we said, that's a sensation we'd like to do. We just don't want to do just take you up and drop you in something. So we said it has to be at a tall building. How do we fit a tall building to the park? The idea of a hotel, of course, was there, so we adapted that. And then, we're going to talk about the Tower of Terror tomorrow extensively. But the idea was going to be a neighborhood that this Tower of Terror fit into, and that's what some of those things never happened.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. So I remember a project with storyboards of all these creatures holding trophies, and I believe that was the Creatures' Choice Awards.
Yep.
And why don't you tell us about that, Eric?
Actually, yeah. This is the book. I got my original sketchbook here.
Secrets, everybody.
Yeah.
Get Eric to show you this book.
It's a pretty crazy. Yeah, I wrote down everything, and I sketched everything back then when I was young, and I'm glad I did because 35 years later, here we have it. The Creature Choice Awards was a fun project of research, and a lot of us Imagineers went to the Horror Film Awards. I think it was only happened once in Hollywood, and Sam Kinison was the host. It was awful.
Like Kevin Rafferty liked it so much.
Yeah, it was horrible, but that was part of the research. And then this team gave me the fun project of designing classic monsters in monster film history with tuxedos on and formal wear. I don't know if there's a picture. I gave you guys a bunch of pictures of that stuff if you have it. And that was a gas. I love doing that because, I love monsters and love painting, so it was like a double whammy. So that's all I really know about what happened, and Eric Jacobson probably knows more, but I was just in charge of the visual stuff. So.
That's okay. The basic idea was sort of the Academy Awards, if you will, for monsters. And we had we were negotiating with Elvira to be our host. She was going to be the MC. In fact, I spent a day at Disney Hollywood Studios with Elvira and her nieces going around. And the funniest thing about that, and she was an amazingly hilarious woman, but Cassandra Peterson, who is Elvira, is absolutely unrecognizable as Elvira when she's not made up and in those wigs and things. But we spent at least 8 or 9 hours with a Walt Disney World tour guide, go around the park and go on all the attractions and talking, had lunch, everything. And when Cassandra was saying goodbye, the tour guide came up and she said, "Who was that woman?" And I told her it was Elvira, and she lost it. She had no idea. So it was really funny. But anyway, but the idea was this Academy Awards, and we had, best scare and best costume and all the stuff you can imagine. But and it was really it was an audio-animatronic show. It was designed to be, and it had a lot of it's sort of faded now, but I remember the end of the show was going to be the Lifetime Achievement Award, and it was awarded to Godzilla. And Godzilla was on his way from Tokyo. He was going to be late, so we were going to cut to a remote camera and see Godzilla walking through the swamps of Florida and then accidentally knocking Spaceship Earth off its base with his tail on his way to the awards show. So that's really pretty much all I can remember about it. But it was going to be a really fun show, and we stayed friends with Elvira ever since. She was disappointed, but that's showbiz, as they say.
I think we should do this. As we finish it, we're going to do an applause check, okay? So, and we'll see, based on your reaction, we'll see how they go. So first we'll go back to Mel, Hotel Mel. Let's hear applause. Should we have done it? Okay, that's moderate. Creature's Choice Awards, applause. Okay. So far, Creature's Choice is in the lead.
All right. Thank you. Eric, was that going to be an existing facility or a new building?
Actually, Eric Robison did a rendering that showed what would become the Tower of Terror, the Tall Hotel, and 2 adjacent facilities. One was going to be the Creature's Choice Theater, and the other was going to be something that Laine might to talk about.
Okay.
Is that a good segue, Laine?
Yeah, well, there's one more little addition to that. It was no big deal, but we were also going to do makeup, because it's studio tour, right? So there was a desire to do, not formal makeup, but monster makeup place and stuff like that. And that was also included in that area, I guess. So it was going to be almost a whole land of monsters and creatures, which was cool, right? Deserves applause already.
Did you have something you want to say?
So Mystery Writer Theater was one of the original concepts that when we came back from Phase 1, that was a card that went up on the board. And, was part of that sort of complex there of horror and mystery. And it was another piece that we thought was missing in terms of genre. It was film, and it was film noir. So around 1939, which really fit kind of in the time of the Hollywood Tower Hotel, was at 1939 as well. So, and it was supposedly offices housed in the Hollywood Tower Hotel, and the queue was sort of spiraling around an atrium going up to the theater, and that atrium was surrounded with offices, and those offices were all those famous film noir detectives, and included Roger Rabbit, and there were sound effects and visual effects behind the glass doors, that obviously things were going on nefariously behind them. And that led you to the top of the rooftop version of the hotel, and that's where the theater seating was, looking across to another building, an apartment building that had glass walls, so almost like a greenhouse effect walls. And that was the apartment of a writer, I think his name was Raymond, who was struggling with writing a script. And he sort of starts to write, throws it away, starts to write, throws it away. And as he starts to write, the door opens, and this is nighttime. And the door opens, and there's a character outlined in the doorway. and then it proceeds with a whole story. I won't go along into all the details, but it turns into an adventure that was basically accomplished with Pepper's Ghost effect, which was some. As he's developing, yeah, it's coming to life, and then the lights go down, and there's a whole car chase and a train, and obviously the curvy lady is, and a dog, I think, too.
But all the visuals that were in his mind were floating above his head and around the room. So
you
you
can
imagine
see the script.
You're
Yeah,
seeing
you can
inside
see-
the mind of this writer as he's fighting his writer's block and then creating this mystery story.
And as it turns out, it obviously didn't happen, but he wakes up in the morning and he has his script.
And I'll just say
I'm
one.
going to add a note to this, which is that it was a beautiful mock-up. It was a beautiful mock-up that Michael Sprout did, and it had a jazz score, and we presented it, and the first thing Michael said was, I hate jazz.
Well, actually, just to elaborate on that, because that's the story I was going to tell. He said Michael Sprout was speaking, and Michael Eisner interrupted and said, "Wait a minute, is that jazz I'm hearing?" And Michael said, "Yeah," and he says, "I really hate jazz." And then the energy in the room collapsed after that.
Okay, so let's hear it for Mystery Writer Theater and jazz.
So for that show, would the audience been sitting in front of an angled piece of glass? Okay.
We're the mystery writers.
Right.
They're the audience.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Awesome. Okay.
atrium was like the excuse for the ghost glass, so you're looking across the street
Yeah.
through the roof. So
Oh,
that
okay.
reflects the image
That's
from above
cool.
on a screen.
Yeah. All right. So, yeah.
We have Eric's, you won't believe this, but Eric is a bit of an erratic texter, so we couldn't find all your images. We found the monsters you did for the.
Oh, let's see him.
We can pull that up now.
He's got a cigarette in his mouth, too.
Let's see.
You're gonna hump the applause.
So anyway, that's...
Okay, you can reclap on Preacher's Choice Awards.
Preacher's Choice Awards. All right. Chris Brown, why don't you tell us about the exploding building?
This will be a pretty quick one. I hope that you got the video that I sent in on this. I know it didn't ever get to confirm with that, but if you guys would either let me know or bring it up. But the basic concept was adding elements to the back lot, the tram tour. And so we came up with a whole bunch of different ideas. We'll talk about some others like Journey to the Center of the Earth and everything else. But this particular one was looking at all the things they do in movies, and something that Hollywood does better than anybody else is blow the crap out of things. So they blow up buildings, they blow up cars, they blow up trash cans, they blow up everything. So about that time, when we were coming up with concepts and doing this, they imploded the Orlando City Hall, and that was actually on the video that I sent. I don't know, do you have the video? Wink or blink once, turn lights off. I don't know how we communicate with
They'll
you
look
people.
for it. Keep going.
Okay, well, we'll see. You'll see it because it'll like, oh, that was amazing. So,
The tram tour bid tomorrow.
Oh, we're going to do it in the tram tour tomorrow.
but it never got built. So it goes in this part. Okay, so basically, you'll see more tomorrow, but you come down the street and there's a large building there, and then there's massive flashes at the bottom and smoke and the whole thing, and the whole building drops, collapses into the ground. They blow up the building. So that was, and then it resets, and 3.5 minutes later, you do it again. Just like Cat Canyon and everything
Very
else.
cool.
Just keep it going. So there we are.
So one of the biggest films during the Eisner Wells era was a film starring Warren Beatty and Madonna. Anybody remember? Dick Tracy, that's right. And this became a big new e-ticket attraction for the Disney-MGM studios. Who wants to tell us about that?
I will.
Okay, Chris.
So the gangster shootout. Has anybody heard of that? Really? That's awesome. This is one that never got built, but boy, did we take it always. So this started, as Ryan pointed out, Warren Beatty and Vittorio Storaro, his cinematographer, had these very prime color sets and things. So when they were shooting the movie, we collected the sets and put them up in a warehouse, Sheldon Street, and we theatrically lit everything. We got masks from the movie, so we had people in masks. We had Tommy guns shooting blanks. We had fog, we had rain, and we had a 1938 Chrysler Imperial 8 from the movie. We put little solenoids for bullet hits along the side, and we mounted machine guns. And then I got to drive this old car with Frank Wells, Michael Eisner, and Jeffrey Katzenberg, drive it into basically a dead end with sheets hanging there and lights on it so they couldn't see anything, and throw the car sideways. And the very first time we went around, Frank Wells grabbed the dash, and Michael laughed. But and then we wove around. It was a very crazy day. But basically went around about 3 times doing that. Then people would pop up from behind things and shoot at us. We'd have the bullet hits on the side of the car. And so they got this experience of basically going through a ride-through shooting gallery with this dynamic card. I drove a lot. Because actually, I've got my own videos from this with a fifth wheel on the back to check what speeds we're actually going, because the whole sensation of speed is different than actual speed. When you're close to things, it seems like you're going much faster. You can be going 600 miles an hour at 35,000 feet, and it doesn't feel like you're hardly moving. But if you're going 100 miles an hour and you're 6 feet off the ground, you're like, oh my God. So it's very, very different. So we studied a lot of that. That was it, huh? That's a picture. The ride system was, as I pitched it at the time in our presentations with Michael and Frank and everybody, was the world's largest slot car. So this was basically a track that guided the front of the vehicle, and everybody knows what a car feels like because you drive them all the time. Rear wheel drive, fixed axle, front wheel, steering, and it followed that around. But then in order to make it feel like it's sliding, we would have a solenoids in the back, the trigger and the rear axle would steer to the side so it would slide, feel like you broke traction and slid around, and then came back in. So that was sort of the original pitch. We also did a shooting gallery mock-up, full-on craziness, and we did models of the whole shooting gallery and ride layouts and all that good stuff too. We did tests with kids coming in and shooting Tommy guns, which was
it interactive?
good fun.
Did the guests have guns?
Yes.
Wow. All right.
So maybe that's why it didn't happen, but it was really fun.
So I think one issue with Dick Tracy was the 7 people who actually saw that movie really liked the attraction, and that's just one of the perspectives you have for us on conceptual development. Is sometimes you think a movie is going to be way out there, a giant hit, everybody gets a lot of energy behind it. It comes out, it's even a little flat, and it takes a lot of the wind out of the sails. But I'm gonna go 3, 2, 1. I want to hear first Dick Tracy. I think we'll forestall blowing up the building until tomorrow, and we'll get another, because you'll get to see it. So, Dick Tracy, 3, 2, 1.
I do have one other comment about this, is because this is basically the stuff that never got built, and we did not ever build the Dick Tracy Gangster Shootout. However, that concept for the ride system did evolve. We built a test track at the Airway building and rode that with the shifting rear axle and all those things. That eventually evolved to a little different. Instead of a gangster car, it became the GM test track, which you probably know from Epcot. And then after that, it became Radiator Springs Racers in Cars Land. So you never know. So it's a great concept, and it works really well.
Awesome. So, who's going to tell us about a spoof attraction starring Jim Henson's characters that was called the Great Muppet Movie Ride? Eric.
Well, she had Kathy Rogers up here.
Oh, Kathy.
No, I'm kidding. She wants to come up. But no, it was when we were working with Henson and trying to figure out what we were going to do with that organization. And Here Come the Muppets, which was a show in the old Daly's Theater, which I think is where Little Mermaid is now. That we wanted to get something in the whole theme has been how quickly can we expand this park. This has been the last couple of days. So we put that in first. That was a creative entertainment show. Then we worked on done Muppet Vision 3D, but we thought there's got to be more to this Muppets land, and we were planning on doing an entire land at that time. So one of the Henson people said, you know, we're all about parody. You guys did the Great Movie Ride. Why don't we do a parody of that, which would be the Great Muppet Movie Ride? And it wasn't a scene-by-scene recreation, but it was Muppets in famous movie scenes and a ride through adventure, not dissimilar to sort of a more childlike scale and version of the Great Movie Ride. That's basically what it was.
So was this like a Mr. Toad bus bar type smaller
I don't
dark
remember
ride?
the ride vehicle exactly, but it was a smaller vehicle, of
Yeah.
course, than the Great Movie Ride vehicle, and,
Yeah.
and a much smaller scale, more of a Fantasyland
Yeah.
size attraction.
Oh, okay. And how come?
And there were some really funny ideas. Joel and Cicero did a lot of the sketches for
Yeah.
it, and there's a big pirate scene. This is before the Johnny Depp Pirates,
Right.
came out, but all kinds of really fun stuff. It was going with the same genres but different properties than we had used in the Great Movie Ride.
Right. Now, how come that never happened?
Well, the Henson deal became very complicated, as probably everybody knows, and
Yeah.
we ended up just doing Muppet Vision 3D and a couple of other supporting things. And who knows, it could happen in the future. It's everything.
Out. Let's find out, audience. Great Movie Ride, interpreted by the Muppets.
Wow.
That's a clear winner.
All right.
Wow.
Well, I guess that'll never happen.
Can we send this recording to Michael Eisner?
Yeah.
People have spoken.
All right, let's go on to David Copperfield's Magical Underground. What was that all about?
Gosh, this is the Eric Jacobson show.
Yeah.
So David Copperfield, he's a magician. He had this idea of doing this interactive restaurant magic show in New York City. And they actually were under construction in Manhattan to do that. And I don't remember how the relationship started, but Michael was thinking we could do a version of that here in Florida. And it was kind of a Planet Hollywood, Hard Rock Cafe kind of thing, but about magic. Right. And so we explored a bunch of ideas, and we thought, well, it'd be a good thing to put near the Tower of Terror. It's kind of the same kind of mysterious, kind of thing. So we designed architecture, but it's a very, very large building because it had huge fly spaces and all kinds of multiple stories. So it was, and the other requirement was we had to have it open when the park wasn't open. So it needed to be accessed from outside the park. So we sited it next to the Tower of Terror, actually where the Hollywood Hills Amphitheater, where Fantasmic is, kind of in that zone. And I know Tom mentioned the other day that he saw this. There was a big billboard for a couple of years outside the berm of the park advertising it. So it's not a secret.
There it is.
Oh, there it is. There it is. Coming.
Wow.
It's going to be partnered with Fantasmic.
Wow.
And we worked on it, and we went to Manhattan. We saw his warehouse where he was storing all the gags and things. And honestly, what happened is his business model fell apart. It never happened. It just collapsed. But and David Copperfield was on his tour while we were working on this. And one day I remember getting up and going to the Disney-MGM Studios parking lot at 5:30 in the morning and meeting Bruce Lavelle because David Copperfield had parked his huge van that he lived in with Claudia Schiffer in the parking lot. So we had a meeting to take him to show him the sign at like 6 o'clock in the morning before the park opened. And he was wearing his bathrobe. That was anyway.
Wow. Well, this got pretty real. I mean.
Yeah, it was very far along.
Wow.
And I think it had nothing to do with us having any falling out or anything, or just the business model of making it work on their end. Never happened.
Yeah.
But just a funny side story is the other thing. When we were trying to woo him to do this, David wanted to come to Disneyland and see Splash Mountain, which had opened like the year before. So Michael Eisner, Tony Baxter, and I met David Copperfield at the Big Thunder Ranch restaurant, and then we were going to go ride to have lunch and talk and stuff. And Michael came in a sweatshirt and jeans. I was dressed, like this. Tony was dressed like an Imagineer. David showed up all in black suit, black slick back hair, makeup, and came to the park and sat down with us. And these teenagers were kind of watching and looking over, and they started walking up with getting their autograph books out, walked right past David Copperfield and up to Michael Eisner to get his autograph.
That's awesome.
So Michael Eisner was truly a walk-around character in our parks. If it had been in Las Vegas, it would have been the opposite, I'm sure.
Right. That's amazing.
That's the story of that.
Survey says David Copperfield at Disney-MGM Studios. 3, 2, 1.
Okay, Muppets wins.
Yeah, big time. All right, Bob, give us the 1 second on Cleopatra.
Half a second. It was one of the discussion items on the possibility of what eventually became Indiana Jones Stunt Spectacular. 3, 2, 1. Here we go. That's it.
All right. Then there was a development of a whole new land based on science fiction films called Sci-Fi Land. Did you draw that, Eric?
Yeah, that was actually, I got tons of stuff. You guys have all those pictures I sent you? Here, we'll check. So I gave him a bunch of sketches and stuff to show you all, but I don't see it up there. Yeah, it was science fiction land, or future land, but it was an eclectic whole land that was related to, yeah, so that's a mothership restaurant and saucer ride below, conceptually. There's also a painting of that same shot. But it was all the classic science fiction films in one eclectic land. And so basically what tomorrow should be today would be pretty cool, is to create, it's a film studio park, remember? So that was all going to be part of supporting that genre. So we had a horror monster area, we had a science fiction area, we have a toon area. So my point of view, what I was getting told to talk about and to conceptualize from Marty Sklar was, Michael wants to expand the park, he wants some different stuff, but it has to be related to film. And this was my favorite genre of science fiction, so I really enjoyed, that's the plan view idea of actually the land backlot area. These are super sloppy sketches. They're really bad, but I mean, it's just ideas on paper. So I mean, it was never meant to show anybody, right? So it's just a personal sketchbook. But it was such a cool idea and super expensive, and wasn't going to be made fast. And that's what Eisner wanted, was to get this thing out fast. And this was not going to be fast. So, but it was really fun for me to sketch and render.
Give it up for Eric's Sci-Fi Land.
And so kind of in a way, Galaxy's Edge is the realization of this kind of an addition to the studio.
All right, another half a second one, Bob, on Andrew Lloyd Webber's Noah's Ark.
As I said, some ideas deserve never to see the light of day. And I can't even imagine this even made it to this list. We were working with Andrew Lloyd Webber at the time. Michael and they had a great relationship, great friendship going on. And Andrew Lloyd Webber said, I want to do a show based on Noah's Ark. Michael said, oh, that's great. We can expand the studio with Noah's Ark. That's it. Goodbye. We're going to do a vote on that.
All right.
It was going to be a kind of a simulation ride that was going to have motion and all that.
Oh, wow.
It was the same project as Cleopatra, because Gary wanted to do Cleopatra and Andrew wanted to do Noah's Ark.
I got it.
Eventually became My Little Pony or something. I'm sorry, I'm having a moment. It's a bad memory time for me.
So if everyone remembers, the big animated film that came out during that era that was new was Roger Rabbit. And I guess you guys were looking at doing an entire land, Maroon Cartoon Studios. Eric?
Yes, Ryan, we were.
What were the attractions in this land?
So this, the idea of this land was gonna. Do we have any visuals? Oh, there's one right there.
Wow.
Yeah, this land was situated to be kind of where Rock and Roller Coaster ended up, maybe a little bit further south of that, where the farmers market area is. But it was based on the ideas of going to Maroon Cartoon Studios and seeing their back lot and their animation, because that Roger Rabbit bridged that idea that toons were real and that they went to work every day in their own world, and so that we were going to take you to that world. And so part of it was there was a Baby Herman's Runaway Baby buggy, blah, blah,
Right.
blah. It's a tongue twister, I can't even say it, attraction, which is right there where you went through a cartoon hospital. How's that for a weird
was
concept?
great.
Kind of a nightmare hospital in a baby buggy as if you were baby Herman. And then there was the Toontown Transit, which was a similar ride taking you on a wacky Star Tours kind of tour of Hollywood. But this simulator, the difference was you'd look out the front window and also all the side windows. So it wasn't just a front-facing
Right.
thing. It was really like a bus, a Toontown bus.
Wow.
And I can't remember, unless I see more visuals to remind me, but there's also sort of a mini kind of, I guess, gadgets, go coasters scale kind of roller coaster. So
Right.
it was really kind of a sort of a fantasy land based on the Roger Rabbit.
So that coaster is real, or
Part of it was going to be real. Part of it was just you can see there's a prop of Roger going over the top at the.
Right.
So part of it was props, and it's faded in the sands of time a little
this
bit.
one got pretty far. I remember.
It went pretty far. Yeah, it was pretty far.
Models even
Yeah.
being made, storyboards.
Went pretty far.
So also, part of that same concept that Eric's talking about is what my part was. When you go to some of these studio parks and you drive through neighborhoods of celebrity homes. Well, the idea here was Toon Stars' homes. And so you take Benny the Cab and you would cruise through the Toon neighborhood. Can you hold that for a second? I gave him the picture, but I'll show you. If you can zoom in on that, I don't know. Oh, there we go, okay. So Benny the Cab, you're cruising through the neighborhood, and then you approach Goofy. You pass by Goofy's house. He's on the front porch, and the house is all screwed up, and he's like, "What are you all doing in my neighbor?" Whatever. So that was a footnote to what your attraction.
And Randy just reminded me what we did in Toontown with Roger Rabbit's cartoon spin. Is that what it's called? I can't remember. Yeah, but that really was sort of the realization of this idea in a different form. So it did sort of happen, but not to the grand scale of a land based solely on Roger Rabbit.
Right.
This was not going to be Toontown. It's going to be a Roger Rabbit world.
Right. And then
Rabbit World at Disney-MGM. 3, 2, 1. About the reaction to the movie.
And then our very last one, Pee-wee's Playhouse. Who's going to tell us about this?
Yeah, so we were going to, but Pee-wee's Playhouse was the big thing. We met with Paul Rubens. We did a couple of designs. We didn't do a whole lot of, it was going to be interactive theater. There was an idea of kind of a ride. It was sort of in a kind of hill mountain with Pee-wee's Playhouse mounted on the top. And we all know the end of that story.
And that, my friends, wraps up all of the...
Does everybody agree that it was Great Movie Ride Muppets? Did everybody agree?
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
The survey,
thank you,
that
everybody.
completes our survey.
Those are the unbuilt attractions of the Disney-MGM studios. Let's hear it for our panel. Oh, that's Cleopatra.
From the Disney Classic.
Not final artwork.
Not for construction.
Except in China. All right, coming up next, I believe we have Craig McNair Wilson talking about Streetmosphere in just a moment. Stick around.